Joining us now is a man whose career spanned over 30 years. He's a former two-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He's a WWE Hall of Famer and author from All-American Boy to Pro Wrestling World Champion, and now guest on another wrestling podcast. Please welcome Mr. Bob Backlund. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, be on the program. Yes.
Thanks. Now, in your book, From All-American Boy to Pro Wrestling World Champion, you talk about 6 principles that helped you succeed. Anybody who gets this book, what's your advice to them, and what do they need to take away from it?
Well, you know what? I don't want them to just read it. Mm-hmm. I want them to study it, because there's some things that can be learned and that could help you become very successful. When I got finished with high school, I tested these 6 principles in 2 different colleges, and I left a mark that's still there in both the colleges. And then after that, in 1973, I left home to go into the wrestling business, and I conquered the business because of the 6 principles. So I really believe that if somebody reads it and if somebody applies it to their lives, it would help them also.
Sure. Now, without giving too much away, can you tell them basically some of, how the principles are stacked up and maybe how you geared your life towards them?
One of them is that you have to show up on time. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be late, you might as well stay home.
I'm very punctual like that. I always like to be on time. I always like to be at least 15 minutes early to anything I'm at too. So I can't arrive late. I hear you on that one. To where I get very impatient if I know I'm going to be late, because I know I should have been there a lot earlier. But yes, that's a very good one. Anything else you could tell the fans too about that?
Well, I learned something in 9th and 10th grade, or 10th and 11th grade, about hard work really paying off. That was something that was one of the biggest lessons I learned, is hard work pays off. Big reward, and it's a story in the book, but it made me double up on the work, and it worked. It worked great. You outwork everybody. Yeah.
Sure. Now, for all the wrestling fans out there too, you have the foreword written by the late great Rowdy Piper, and there's also interviews in it from Ric Flair, the Iron Sheik. What can you tell us about them and your decision to have them in the book?
Bruno Sammartino did a promo in there, and Sergeant Slaughter. It was they were, and I didn't really hang around with the wrestlers very much. I wasn't into what they were into, and I thought maybe they hated me, but everybody showed a good amount of respect in the book.
Nice, that's good. I know a lot of wrestling fans out there would love to hear that, to at least hear what others had to say. So that's good. A lot of people, growing up, they probably might not know that you were also an amateur wrestler for North Dakota State University from the late 60s to early 70s. Now, not every wrestler today started off in the amateur wrestling world, but you did. And did you ever think that the amateur world would lead you to pro wrestling?
No, I never really thought about it. My mom was a big fan of wrestling in Minneapolis or Minnesota. That was the AWA with Vern Gagne and his group of people, but I never really thought about professional wrestling till after I was out of college.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you met superstar Billy Graham, who kind of talked you to get into the business, I believe?
I was at North Dakota State University, and I played football and I wrestled. Mm-hmm. We won a national championship in football. Then I won one in wrestling also in the same year. But Ron Earhart didn't have a weight room for the wrestlers, so I used to go to the YMCA in Fargo, North Dakota. And one of the times I was there was a guy working out, and I knew him because my mom watched wrestling, and we got together and we said a few words, and he asked me if I ever thought about getting into business.
Wow.
I answered no real quick, and it was very interesting because about 5 years later, I'm standing in the middle of the ring, looking across at my opponent. He's got the WWE belt around his waist, and I'm going to take it from him. It's superstar Billy Graham, the guy I met in Fargo, North Dakota.
Wow. Now, what was it like to come full circle almost, if you will, especially in front of all those people down at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, there was 27,000 people there that night, and the weird thing was though, when I was in college, he was trying to talk me into getting to the ring, and in 1978, he was trying to talk Vince McMahon Sr. out of giving me the belt, or putting the belt on me.
Wow.
But Vince was a very honorable man, and he told Superstar that he was going to take the belt from Bruno, and then I was going to get it on a certain. He even told him the date, and he kept his word, and he became like a dad to me after that. When he, because I heard that he was trying to talk him out of it too, and some other people were also, but he stuck to his guns and kept his word, and he was. Like I said, he became like a dad to me. Yeah.
Sure. Now, that your first reign is also the second longest reign in title history, behind Bruno Sammartino's first. How does it feel to be a part of the history books forever? And did you think at that time maybe that your reign would have lasted that long?
In the wrestling business, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
You never know how it's going to go, and usually they predict things by how many people are in the houses or in the events.
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes down, you're out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruno Sammartino was a great wrestler. I think he's the greatest wrestler of all times. Had the belt for 11 years. Was a great person in the ring and a great person out of the ring. It was, and it wasn't overwhelming for me to kind of take over his position, because I didn't know him that well, because I didn't watch WWF. I watched the AWA out in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know as much about Bruno Sammartino as I do now. And he's a great man. He's a great friend.
Sure. Now, being the world champion, that comes with a lot of stuff behind it, where being a role model, if you will. Do you think that wrestlers take being a role model maybe for granted in sports entertainment business, especially in a world like today where everyone's actions can be seen on TV, on their phone, the internet? It's everywhere. Do you feel that maybe a lot of guys today take that for granted?
There's probably some people that do. There's a lot of people that are pretty serious about it, and a lot of people don't want to be a role model. But I always try to do the right things, and Vince McMahon Sr. wanted his champion to be a better guy outside of the ring than in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
He had to be. He wanted him to be a good person, a solid person outside the business.
Also, I want to bring up one thing that's I like hearing about. At one point, fans who'd come up to you and who wanted an autograph, you'd ask them to recite all the presidents in order. Can you tell us the motivation behind that? Because I think some fans will find this very, very unique.
Well, you know what? I was out of the business. I stopped in 80. It was basically 85. And then I went back in the 90s, and I went back there to be Mom, Dad, and Apple Pie and the All-American Boy, and the people didn't care about that. And I went and asked Vince McMahon Jr. if I could be a bad guy, and he asked me why. I said, because the good guys are lying, cheating, and swearing. Let me be bad by being good.
That's great.
I had a policy where I said, I'm going to make you people responsible for your own actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I started that policy where you had to work for my signature. You had to be able to recite the presidents of the United States, and that was something that I thought it was good for kids because they were learning something, they were using their memory, and it was all about further education. Yeah.
Now, also in the book, like you said earlier about the 6 principles. At your age now, you're 67 years young, and possibly in more shape than most of the younger generations below you. How is physical fitness and education important, and why does the younger generation really just need to shape up this day and age?
Well, you know what? The American dream isn't there that much with young people. They're not thinking that way. Mm-hmm. They're kind of thinking, let's just sit down and see what we can get from our parents or whatever. They're hanging around their house. They're not going out and trying to climb the ladder of success, I think, because people have discouraged them. But that's our jobs to encourage them to go out and work hard and get dedicated. We live in the greatest country in the world, and there's more opportunities in the United States of America than there's any other place. and you shouldn't stay home. Get out there and work hard and be driven and take care of yourself.
A few years ago, you were inducted into the Hall of Fame. I was in the attendance there that night. Your speech, as great as it was for the live audience, it may have run a little bit long, in which Vince McMahon came out, had to jokingly look at his watch. But what was it like to be inducted that night and to give a speech in the same place where you won your first championship? And what was Vince like backstage after that happened? But it was a great time.
Well, I wasn't backstage, but I guess there was a lot of things going on backstage while I was speaking, and the crowd was reacting pretty darn well. The only thing I regret is when Vince McMahon turned around, I should have put him in the cross-faced chicken wing when he came out. But the good thing, the nice thing was that Donald Trump was there.
Oh, yeah.
And he came up to me after my speech and he said, if we could plug you in to New York City, you'd light it up.
Hey, maybe a future mayor.
I'm going down to see Donald, to try to get hold of Donald Trump. I was in the White House last week on Wednesday, and then I went to Trump Tower on Thursday last week to try to get a message to him. I want him to plug me into the United States of America and let me go give speeches to encourage people to be successful and work hard and be dedicated and be self-driven.
I think that would be very wise of him to do that. A very smart move, if you ask me. Definitely, you could be probably the new secretary of, probably just fitness and motivation. Probably, definitely a great fit. Just like Jack LaLanne once did, with his fitness and his workouts. I mean, I think you bring a whole new level to what he used to do. I think it'd be great to have you in the forefront of all this, especially motivational speaking to all the youngsters out there.
Yeah. Well, I've been working out all my life, and I'll never stop working out. I do pull-ups in the L position.
Wow.
And but I love working out. It's done. I started working out when I was pretty young, and I just keep doing it every day. And, it means so much as far as staying healthy if you can get a good workout in maybe 5 days a week.
I encourage everybody out there, too, if you don't have the book now, go out and pick it up, From All-American Boy to Pro Wrestling World Champion. Bob, where can they find the book today, and can they get it on your website?
If they want to get it directly from me, they go on BobBacklundNow.com.
All right, great. And it's in stores, I'm sure, everywhere. Everybody can download it. So please pick it up today. Bob, any last words maybe for anybody out there who's maybe on the shelf about getting the book? Any last words you can give them about picking it up?
Well, you know what? If they go on BobBacklundNow.com, they'll get it through PayPal. PayPal will send me their information, and I'll email them myself and tell them that I'm going to mail the book today or when I'm going to mail it, and I'll sign it for them and I'll send it to them.
Oh, wow.
And I'm almost guaranteed they're going to like the book. It's a great story. We've never had anything negative about it, and it's just a story about my life, and it's very calm. It's very relaxing to read, and I'm excited about it. And I don't think anybody's ever regretted buying the book and reading it. And there's a lot of people out there studying it. There's 18 little things in the back of the book that can lead to a really happy life, along with the 6 principles that could lead to a very successful life.
Wow. Well, Bob, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait. Once again, everybody, please pick up this book today. It's definitely worth your time. Thanks so much, Bob.
No, thank you. It's a great pleasure, and never capitulate, young man.